Hello my sweet bestie angels, welcome back. We are here with episode 3 of trying to finish all of the series that I am currently in the middle of. And in episode 2, I told you guys that I was in the middle of 16 series. And when I was prepping for this video, I was going through all the series and somehow we have increased that number. I don't know how. Literally someone banned me from starting a new series. It's getting out of hand, but we went from 16 to 21. That's not even like a couple more. That is a decent amount more. So I am currently in the middle of these 21 series, and that is only referring to the series that I can continue right now. So the next book in the series is released and available for me to read. So this doesn't even include the series where it's like, oh, they're unfinished series but the next book isn't out yet. Like, I can continue 21 series. So we are gonna try and work on that today. We are gonna try and hopefully complete or get up to date with a few more series that I am not up to date with currently. I am actually filming this intro after I finish all the books that I'm going to be reading in this video, so I already know what we're going to read, but you guys don't. But I will let you know that the first book we are going to be starting with is Onyx Storm. This is the third book in the Empyrean series. I feel like so many people are very excited for this release, and whilst this isn't a 5-star series for me, it is a series that I have a lot of fun with, so I am very excited to see what is going to happen with Violet in this book. I started Onyx Storm today. I was sitting by the pool for a little bit this afternoon, so I started it then. And I got up to page 50. So obviously not like a huge chunk, but a little bit. I think that would be roughly 10% actually. And I think the only thoughts that I have so far is just like, I feel like I'm just trying to like settle in. I feel like I'm just trying to kind of like get back in the world, remember who everyone is, kind of try to remember what happened at the end of Iron Flame. I'm not gonna lie, I remember definitely the significant things from Iron Flame, but it's not a story that has stuck with me, especially compared to Fourth Wing, which is absolutely crazy to think about because obviously Fourth Wing I read first. You'd think I'd remember Iron Flame better because it was more of a recent read. It just hasn't stuck with me in the same way that Fourth Wing did, but I do feel like the more I read, the more I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm remembering what's going on here. I did watch a recap video on TikTok of Iron Flame, which was very helpful because there are a few things that I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. And so that video was very helpful. I wish I could have just like reread Iron Flame, but like I do not have the time or the patience really. I didn't like the book enough to want to reread it, you know what I mean? I mean, I liked it. It's just like, if I'm gonna do a reread, I'd rather do a reread of one of my like favorite books. Anyway, regardless, I've started the book. I'm enjoying myself. There are a few characters that I'm like, who is this? Literally, who are you and what are you doing here? State your name, age, occupation, and origin story, please, because I need a hand. But yeah, I feel like nothing so significant has really happened yet anyway. Like, it is just like kind of like catching up with all of the characters after like the big stuff that happened at the end of Iron Flame. It's kind of like what happened with each of the characters, how were they impacted, and what are the steps moving forward. Obviously when I give you these reading updates, I won't be able to tell you much about like what's going on because it's the third book in a series, so that will be spoilers, but I'll obviously give you all of my thoughts and feelings and we'll see how we go. But yeah, we have started the Onyx Storm journey. I think it's been 2 days since I last talked to you. I didn't do any reading at all yesterday. I was just like out and about all day. But today I have made a bit more of a dent and I think I'm almost halfway now, maybe a little bit under. I just got up to page 241, chapter 28. And like I said, I think it's roughly halfway. So I thought this would be a good like check-in point. Last time I talked to you, I was very much like, I'm still getting my bearings. I'm still trying to remember what's happening and who everyone is. Now I'm having a lot more fun. Like, I feel like I've gotten the hang of the world again. I remember who people are. I know what we're trying to do. I understand where we're trying to get to. And so now I'm kind of just enjoying the ride a little bit more. So I'm having a lot of fun. It's definitely not giving me 5-star feelings, but I also didn't really expect it to. I will say it is giving me a little bit of like middle book syndrome where it kind of just feels like an in-between book. However, I do feel like Rebecca Yarros is the type of author that like you'll be reading something and you're like, is this really necessary? Is this really important? And then she ends up like bringing it back later down the track. Like, we've already seen her do that before in this series. Like there have been times where in the second or third book, she has kind of brought back stuff from the original book and you're kind of like, oh, like now I understand why that was important. Whereas at the time it felt a little bit like unnecessary, like almost like why are we getting all of this information? But it makes sense later. But yeah, right now I feel like my biggest like issue with this book is that it kind of just feels like we're doing a bunch of side quests. Like obviously there's like a big thing that we're focusing on. Obviously without giving spoilers, I'll try and remain vague. There's a big thing that we're trying to deal with, like a big enemy and a big situation that we're trying to solve, I guess, and like deal with. But right now we're kind of just like doing these little side quests, these little like random missions that don't directly fight that big situation, but I think they'll be important later. Yeah, like right now it just doesn't feel like everything's important, but I think it will be later on is the issue. I also just fear it is a bit info dumpy. Like there is a lot of information being given to us and I do not think I'm retaining it all. I don't, unfortunately. I wish I did. I wish I was, but I don't think I am. And I think the same thing happened in Iron Flame. Like they gave us so much information and I do not think I retained it all. And so I'm a bit like, is this just gonna happen in every single book that she writes? Like we're just gonna be like dumped with all this information and be expected to remember it all? Because like, that's not fun to me. Like that part, that's not fun. I love learning about the world, but when it just feels like it's like, oh, here's some information about the world or some history about the world, and then it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, it's not as fun anymore. So I'm just trying to not put too much pressure on myself to actually be like fully retaining every tiny piece of information that's coming out of this book, because that's just not fun to me and I just want to have a fun time. Like that's why I'm reading this book. So is that going to come back and bite me in the butt? Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying watching all of our characters do these like little missions and side quests. And I love the dragons. The dragons are just so good. And just having the mental bond with the dragons and being able to like hear from them, like hear them speak and like see their attitudes and their personalities come out. I just love it. That is absolutely the highlight of this series for me. Like 100% it's the dragons. In terms of the romance, I honestly like do not really care. I'm not someone who's like obsessed with Xaden like some people are. Like honestly, if he is one of your book boyfriends, go for it. Like I have nothing against it. It's just like he doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. Sometimes there'll be scenes where I'm like, oh my gosh, like kicking my feet giggling. But overall he's not one of my like favorite book boyfriends. So this just isn't a series for me where I'm obsessed with the romance. However, the dragons, completely obsessed. So I'm definitely really enjoying that element of the story. And I feel like we've had a decent amount of dragons in this book, so I'm content with that. I have about 100 pages left and I am so stressed. I don't think I fully understand everything that's going on, but I do know it's bad and it's making me stressed. I will say though, ever since I hit the 50% mark, it has just gotten better and better. I really believe that. Like a lot of the things that I said at the 50% point, I kind of take back. I feel like there's so much going on. It feels very significant, very important. We're getting very crucial pieces of information for the story. And I'm sat. You know what I'm saying? I am sat. Oh no. I feel like I need to process this for the next 3 to 5 business days. What on earth? That was crazy. It's now the next day. It's actually just hit 6 p.m. and I haven't read a single thing today. But I'm gonna go shower and get ready for bed, kind of like settle in for the night. And so I decided to pick out my next book, and I've decided to go with Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams. This is a brand new release. It came out in January. I just got my hands on it. I literally just opened the package today. But this is the 3rd book in the When in Rome series, which is by far my favorite series or like world that Sarah Adams has written. When in Rome, the first book in that series, was a 5-star for me. The second book was a 4-star, and so I'm very intrigued to see what I think of this. I've heard incredible reviews so far. A lot of people say it's their favorite in the series, and I'm hoping that it might be another just really good read for me. I don't know if it'll be a 5-star. I hope it is. It's one of those books where it's like, it could be. I'd be shocked if it's anything less than 4, but I guess we'll wait and see. And once I finish this, it will put me up to date with this series as well. So I think that will make me feel very accomplished, being up to date with another series right as it was released. I am so excited about this one. Reading update. I have read a bit more of Beg, Borrow and Steal. I'm up to page 105. Just hit the 100-page mark. And guys, I am having so much fun. Like, this is exactly what I needed. I feel like after reading a really big, more complex fantasy book, I mean, I'm saying that and some people would really disagree with Onyx Storm being like high fantasy. I'm not saying it's high fantasy, but like, you gotta be thinking. You have to remember who's who. You know, you have to know who has alliances. You have to remember whose magic is whose and whose dragon is whose and which part of the world they all come from and all the politics, and like, there's a lot to be paying attention to. And then you finish that and pick up a book like this, and it feels like you're on vacation. Like, my brain switched off. It's gone. And I couldn't be happier. There's just something so like refreshing and perfect about reading a rom-com after finishing a fantasy book. Like, it almost feels like a prerequisite. It's like, you finish a fantasy book, now you just have to read a cute little rom-com. Like, I don't make the rules, I'm just following them. Perfect. So like I mentioned, this is the 3rd book in the When in Rome series, and each book in this series follows one of the Walker siblings. So the first book follows the eldest brother, the second book follows the youngest sister, and then this book is following Emily, and she's the eldest daughter, but like second child, if that makes sense. And she's a primary school teacher, and the love interest in this book is a guy named Jack, who is also a primary school teacher. They both teach 2nd grade together. Well, not together, like separate classrooms, but like at the same school. And they just have a bit of a rivalry. So there's like a lot of banter, a lot of teasing. They say they like hate each other, but it's very like, it's just kind of like silly, goofy kind of teasing. I wouldn't say it's like they're like really, really mean to each other. I mean, some of the like pranks and things they pull on each other, I'm a bit like, oh, that would annoy me so badly. Like, I would be so angry if someone did that, but they're not being like straight up mean, I don't think. I mean, if someone treated me that way, maybe I would think they're mean, but you know what I mean? It's not like a bully romance or something like that. But yeah, they're like, no, we don't like each other at all. We hate each other. We're like arch nemesises. And they went to college together, which is kind of like where it all began. But now they teach in the same school, and so it's kind of continued. But they also just became neighbors. So there's this like forced proximity situation as well. However, this whole series is set in Rome, Kentucky, like a small town called Rome in Kentucky. And it's just like a very classic small town where everyone knows everyone, everyone's in each other's business. The gossip spreads very quickly, and Emily grew up in this small town, so she knows everyone knows her, everyone loves Emily, like in the small town. And then Jack did not grow up in this small town, but he has just moved there because obviously he works there, blah, blah, blah. But because he's like newer to the small town, people don't really have the same kind of like loyalty to him that they have for Emily. I mean, there are so many elements going on in this book. There's a lot more that I haven't said because obviously like spoilers, but like Jack has a secret. Jack also has history with a previous relationship. Emily is kind of dealing with her own sort of like struggles, I guess you could say. Like, they both definitely have their own things going on outside of this whole romance, but I mean, it's not a romance yet. There's been maybe a couple of flirty comments, but that's basically it. But honestly, I am having so much fun so far. I am just like eating it up. Like I said, it just feels so nice to read a really easy, fun, silly, goofy book after reading Onyx Storm. And I'm hoping I can get a lot more reading done today because it's like one of my only days where I don't have a lot to do. So I'm like, well, if I don't have a big to-do list, like I will be reading. Also, how perfect is my bookmark? On one side it says the Homebody Club, admit 1, like it looks like a little ticket. And the other side, it again looks like a ticket, but it says staying home is my hobby, which exactly. It says it's from Carter Designs Co. I think this was sent to me a while ago. And I guess I'll give you some more of my thoughts a little bit later. I've decided that Jack, our male main character in this book, is Jude Law. From The Holiday specifically, like a younger Jude Law. He was described quite early on as wearing glasses, and I don't know why, but as soon as he was described as that, my brain said Jude Law, The Holiday. I feel like this is giving, obviously, lighter hair, but this could be Jude Law with lighter hair. Am I just like fully making it up? Maybe. But because of that, our female main character, Emily, just automatically became Cameron Diaz in my brain, because obviously if I'm fan casting Jude Law, I'm also going to be fan casting Cameron Diaz. It just has to be done. So if you want to read this book and imagine the main characters as Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, please go ahead. It's making it very fun. For some reason, it really just makes sense. I don't always need to have like a really good mental image of my characters or like allocate real people like actors or something to them, but sometimes it really hits. And I feel like in this book, it is hitting. But apart from that, I am up to page 226 and I am really enjoying it. We've definitely hit the actual like romance part of the story, which is really fun because obviously, like I said at the beginning, they're kind of rivals, they don't really like each other, and they slowly become friends and then slowly, I guess, become more than friends. But even when they were friends and even when they were rivals, there was definitely like chemistry and there was definitely like a, oh, I think you're very attractive kind of situation. So they were never like friend zoned necessarily. But yeah, I really like the pace of this book. I liked how long it has taken for them to go from rivals to friends and then from friends to whatever you would consider them at this point. I guess just like aware of their feelings. I definitely prefer a slow burn over like any sort of insta love. I honestly prefer it when it's like a super slow burn. But like I said, I feel like this is good pacing. I feel like it was just like a good amount of time in each kind of stage of the relationship, which is really good. I have no idea what the third act conflict, well actually I do have an idea of what the third act conflict could be, but I'm intrigued to see it play out. I'm hoping it's well done. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star read. I don't feel like it's given me that like 5-star feeling, like can't put it down, but I am definitely having just like such a good time. It's just so much fun and I love this world. I really love this world. I think all of the side characters are so fun. The small town is so fun. All of the situations that these characters have found themselves in is just like funny. It's just like silly, goofy, but it's still got me like giggling and kicking my feet. Like it's just fun. I'm going to continue reading now just until I fall asleep, but I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I ended up finishing Beg, Borrow or Steal. I had so much fun with this and I thought the ending was really good. I thought the conflict made sense and I just really liked how it all wrapped up. I know I didn't give my final rating on Onyx Storm and I'm not going to give my final rating on this one yet either. I think I'm going to do that at the end of the video because I just want to like think about them for a little bit before I give you like my final rating. But it's time for us to move on to a new book and I have no idea what I want to start next. I have so many options. I've ordered a copy of a new release and I was really hoping it would be here by now, but it hasn't arrived. So I'm like, do I start something else? Do I try and wait for that one to come in? Because it was supposed to be here yesterday, but it might, I hope it comes today. If it doesn't come today, I will be really sad. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I want to read that new release and I thought that was going to be my next read. And now that it's not, I'm like, okay, what do I read instead? I'm considering reading Mysteries at Thorn Manor, which is in the same world as Sorcery of Thorns. It's kind of like a novella that like follows it. It's a really like short little book and it's on my TBR for the month. But then I also could read The Enemy by Sarah Adams, which is part of her, what is it called? Like some sort of Charleston. It Happened in Charleston series, which is funnily enough at the back of this one because I've already read The Match. I just need to read The Enemy. But I'm like, do I want to read 2 Sarah Adams books back to back? I'm not sure. Do I want to read 2 romance books back to back? I don't know. And then there are also a million different other books that we could choose as well. Like we could continue the Skyward series. We could continue the Glow of the Everflame series, Defy the Night, Trial of the Sun Queen, The Edens. Like there are so many. So I'm gonna have a think and I'll have to get back to you guys, I guess, because right now I have no idea. Update for you guys. It's been a couple days. I started Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. This is a little novella that follows Sorcery of Thorn. So I don't know if you'd call this like a series because it's just like one book and then this little novella, but I'm considering it a series because they're kind of just set in the same world and this one follows the first book. So I decided to pick this up and I finished it. Yep. So Liam and I went to the beach and I basically just read the whole thing while we were there. It's under 200 pages and the pages themselves are kind of like double spaced, like the font is quite large. So it was a very quick read, but I really enjoyed it. It was super sweet. If you've read Sorcery of Thorns, I definitely recommend picking up this little novella. It's just a sweet little story. I feel like it also gives a little bit more of an explanation as to what happens after Sorcery of Thorns finishes, obviously. Like you just get a little bit more of each character's story and kind of see what they get up to, and I don't know, it was really sweet. It just felt so wholesome, so cutesy. There's some really cute little like romantic scenes in this as well, which I really liked, but yeah, definitely enjoyed. And so now it's time to pick up another book, and I think I'm leaning towards picking up The Enemy by Sarah Adams. I just don't feel like picking up like another fantasy book or something, and I feel like a lot of the series that I have to continue are fantasy, and I don't have a lot of the next books in the series in physical form, but I do have this one. This is the second book in the like Made in Charleston, I think it's called that, I could be wrong. It's something Charleston series by Sarah Adams. It's just a little duet. It's just 2 books. I already read The Match, which is the first book, and this is The Enemy, which is the second book. I'm pretty sure it's a bit of like an enemies to lovers, but obviously it's not going to be like actual enemies. I'm sure they don't like actually hate each other, but it's about June and Ryan. They went to high school together, didn't really get along. She stayed in their hometown, but I think he moved away, and now he's come back because their best friends are getting married, and so it looks like a bit of a forced proximity situation, so we'll see how this goes. I liked the first book in the series, but I didn't love it, and I'm intrigued to see what I think of this one. I don't have like such high hopes, but I think it'll be a fun time, but I guess we'll wait and see. Reading update. I'm about halfway through this book. I don't think I'm having fun. By around the 40% mark, he liked her, she liked him, and they both knew that they liked each other, so therefore I was bored. I know that's literally so toxic, but like, where is the yearning? Where is the slow burn? It's non-existent in this book, and so I'm not really enjoying it that much. Like, it's not bad at all. Like, it's not bad. But it's just like not my favorite type of romance, you know? Like I like a slow burn. I like it when they don't know that they're obsessed with each other. Like you might know, but they don't know. Like it's okay. I don't even know like what to tell you. Like I don't even have any like thoughts to give you. They liked each other a long time ago, but they like pretended they didn't. But like it's been 12 years. 12 years since they've seen each other, and they didn't even like date to begin with. Like nothing happened 12 years ago, and apparently they haven't been able to stop thinking about each other for 12 years. And I'm just a bit like, are you sure? I mean, he's a chef, so that's a pro. We love to see it. I love a male main character chef. I don't know why, I just love it. So that's good, but that's about all I have to say in terms of positives. I feel like the humor isn't really hitting. I always say that I have to read Sarah Adams books when I'm like in the right type of mood to read a Sarah Adams book, and I think I am. Like I'm just wanting a cute little rom-com, but it's just not hitting. It's not hitting in this book. I wish it was, but it's not. So I'm gonna finish it. Like it's not like DNF level. Oh, is it? Here's my thing. I don't think I'm gonna rate it very highly. So should I even like continue it? But I'm also like, oh, I may as well. Like it's honestly very quick. I kind of want to DNF it because I can't see it being above like a 3-star read. I don't even know if it'll make 3 stars. I don't know. We'll see. I finished The Enemy. I I don't think I have much more to say. I think I still stand by everything I said last night. I don't think this is a bad book, but I don't really think it was a book for me. I just didn't really enjoy my time. But it is one of those books where I'm like, oh, I could totally see how other people would really, really enjoy this. But for me, it just didn't hit. Now that I finished the last book, let's talk about the books that I read in this video. We ended up reading 4 books, and that means that we became up to date with, or we completed 4 different series, which feels so good. Like, I just feel so accomplished. We started off this vlog by reading Onyx Storm, and I've decided that I'm gonna give this 4.25 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed my reading experience. I didn't go in expecting this to be a 5-star read for me. This series is just like not an ultimate favorite of mine. It's a series that I enjoy and have a lot of fun with, but it's not one that I am just like utterly obsessed with, which is fine. So I didn't expect this to be a 5-star, and I feel like a 4.25 is a really solid rating. I think if I had to rank the books so far in this series, I would put Fourth Wing on top, Onyx Storm second, and then Iron Flame third, but I enjoyed all of them. They're all around 4 stars for me. My main criticisms of this book is, 1, I felt like the first half dragged a little bit, and I feel like the second half was just exponentially better than the first half, and I wish it had been a bit more balanced. 2, it did give me a little bit of like middle book syndrome. I don't even know how I can explain that. It's just like how it felt to me. And number 3, I just feel like there was a little bit too much info dumping / a little too many characters. I think maybe this book would benefit with having less characters, but being able to focus on those characters more so that you know the cast of characters really, really well. I feel like some characters we do know really well, but it just felt like there were a few that would get brought in and I was like, I do not know who you are. And to me, that raises a bit of a red flag, because I think when a character is brought up, you should be able to know who they are. As simple as that. And I feel like I've heard that criticism from other people too. I don't think it's just me. So those are my main criticisms, but on the flip side of that, I had such a good time. I loved the dragons in this book. I always do. They're such a highlight for me. I really liked some of our side characters. I feel like they really shined in this book. It's funny because obviously I was like, oh, there's too many characters. But like the ones that we got to know really well, I loved them. I feel like they made this book for me. Like the dragons and the side characters really just, yeah, I really loved them. Riddick, so freaking funny, and I loved his presence in this book, I guess. And I also found a lot of the parts of this book really fascinating. Like they really had me intrigued. They really did. So overall, I had a great time, really enjoyed my reading experience, and I'm intrigued to see where the story goes from now. I think I've heard that the next book isn't coming out till 2027, which is kind of crazy, but I'm excited to continue it when it eventually comes out, I guess. Then I read Beg, Borrow or Steal by Sarah Adams, another new release actually, and reading this put us up to date with the When in Rome series, which is my favorite series that Sarah Adams does. It's a small town romance series. It follows a family, like each sibling has their own book. I think we only have one more sibling, so I don't know if that will be the last book in the series. I don't know when that's coming out. I'm excited to read it when it does. But this was just a lot of fun. I think overall I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I had a lot of fun with it. I just thought it was such a fun reading experience. I thought it was very like silly, goofy, the situations that our characters found themselves in. Like it had me smiling, it had me giggling and kicking my feet. I really liked both of our main characters, and I love an interconnected standalone series where you get to see previous characters come back and they have like dinners together or something like that. Like that element is always just so fun to me. Honestly, I don't really know why it's not rated higher for me, apart from that it just like didn't feel like a 5-star read for me. It didn't feel like a 4.5 to me. Like I wish I could explain why. I just don't know. I just didn't get that feeling from it, but I still had a great time. Like no complaints, honestly. And if you're gonna read any Sarah Adams books, I personally think that the When in Rome series is my favorite. And I think I just read it at the perfect time. Like after finishing a big fantasy book, this was exactly what I needed. Then we have Mysteries of Thorn Manor, a little novella that follows Sorcery of Thorns. I love Sorcery of Thorns. It was a 4.5-star read for me. So I was really excited to finally pick up the little novella. I read Sorcery of Thorns, I want to say at the end of 2023. So it's been over a year since I read the initial book. So it did take me a second to really like get into this book and kind of like remember who's who and all of those important elements that got told to us in Sorcery of Thorns. But once I got into it, I just had such a good time. I ended up giving this 3 stars, which honestly is a great rating for a novella. I usually don't rate novellas higher than like 3 stars, but I feel like it did everything it needed to do. It was just such a wholesome, cute little story, and I just love this world so much. It's so whimsical and magical, and if you haven't read Sorcery of Thorns, please do. It's so good. And lastly, we read The Enemy also by Sarah Adams. 2 Sarah Adams books in one video, crazy. I didn't love this one as much as I was hoping to. You guys saw, I only finished it this morning, so it's so hard for me to like already have a rating on it. I think it might be a 2-star read, either a 2 or a 2.5. I'm not like fully set on one of those yet. I honestly don't even think it was that bad of a book. It just didn't hit for me. Like nothing in this book hit. The humor, the characters, the plot, like I just wasn't invested. I just didn't really care. Again, I wasn't like angry. It didn't make me mad. It didn't upset me. Like I wasn't like, oh my gosh, no one should ever read this book. It's one of those books where I can very clearly understand why some people would really love it. But for me, I was just like, it's not doing anything for me. Like I am so indifferent towards this book, so it feels wrong to rate it any higher than like a 2.5, because even a 3-star, I'm like, well, if it was a 3-star, I would have kind of enjoyed it. Like I would be like, oh yeah, it's a decent book, it's fine. But this was like, not even that to me. I've seen some people's reviews of this and they've rated it much higher, so you might really enjoy it if you pick it up, but it just wasn't for me, and that's okay. But yeah, those are all the books that we picked up in today's video, and it just feels so good to be up to date with a few more series. We still have many more to continue and to complete, but we are slowly making our way through. Are we also starting new series in the process? Yes, but we won't think about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this reading vlog. I think this is our first reading vlog of 2025, which is crazy. I hope I will have many more coming your way, but I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.